MeetYourMakers. LeBlanc off the board, and of course, that pocket pick Draven.
Yeah, it's really been the highlight for MYM. Their pick and ban phase is always pretty good. And then when we get into the game, they just have a hard time really using their comp. Aurelia been taken away from Jwaow, the champion he played yesterday. He is, of course, a carry top lane type, and you don't want to risk him snowballing out of control.
Look at this. They're banning out. They're really trying to focus on freeze right now. This has opened up a lot for Soren, though.
Yeah, and for YoungBuck as well, we have seen Lissandra being first picked by the Wolves a few times. Kassadin can be left open as well in this case here, but a lot of power picks because we have all these target bans, Aurelia, Draven, and Kalista.
It's worth noting, every game that the Wolves have Cassiopeia available to them, they take it. So if MeetYourMakers don't ban this out here, I would expect that first pick. Ahri's banned off. There's the Cassiopeia. Okay. So they've picked those 3 pocket picks.
So do you want Lissandra now for YoungBuck and then risk giving, well, not risk, but you will give over then the Graves for MYM, so Freeze won't be able to play that one. Instead, actually, Kassadin being left open, MYM has to respond with Lissandra, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of strong junglers on the board. They didn't need to worry about picking one of those ones up right away because there was going to be an option to get it back. You see the Annie picked up very quickly, as well as the Rek'Sai for MeetYourMakers. Copenhagen Wolves, they have a lot of options here.
Yeah, and MYM didn't really take anything away from the Copenhagen Wolves with the first 2 picks. Airwaks has preferred Jarvan anyway in the jungle, and for Unlimited, if he wants to play Engage, he just goes for the Leona. Yes, Annie has been a good pick for him, but it's not the only thing he can play, so I don't actually feel like MYM took a lot of picks away from the Wolves despite them having all these target bans. And so many power picks being open, obviously.
It is really surprising. The Wolves are taking their time about this one because they just have so many choices. You mentioned the Jarvan.
They get the Graves for free.
Yeah, they can pick up the Graves. It's been the preferred general pick here in Europe. They do end up locking it. Yeah, exactly what they do.
That's the thing, yeah.
There's no reason not to.
So when you ban Draven Kalista, you know Freeze is going to go Graves. It's his 3rd best champion, or we can say he's still one of the best champions, but the 3rd most played for him, and he's been taking it every single time. He didn't feel like Draven had the mobility to stay alive, or they've just been banned away, the Kalista and Draven in this case. So by banning those 2 AD carries and giving Graves, you don't really gain anything. You just kind of waste 2 bans because it's still getting one of what he considers one of the best AD carries.
Yeah, a bit curious. MeetYourMakers are going to take their top laner and their AD carry as well. So the Maokai and the Corki locked in, but yeah, they spend so much time in the ban phase, or so many of these bans specifically targeting the hard carries of the Copenhagen Wolves, and then they don't take away anything else. It is a bit inconsistent considering this is typically where they do shine.
Yeah, and we're going to have to see MYM look for a lane swap in their case, depending on, of course, what the Copenhagen Wolves will pick for top lane. Lissandra has been a go-to champion for YoungBuck. I don't expect to see him play the Kassadin. He's normally not the carry type. He's more of a supportive top laner for him. But obviously Lissandra into Maokai is not the best matchup for Lissandra herself.
Unlimited had a decent score on this Lulu yesterday. It looks like he's not going to go. Oh, maybe he will. Okay. Ooh, we could see the top Morgana again.
Can see the top Morgana perfectly fine into Maokai. You can push that lane over and over. And if MYM is forcing a lane swap, then Morgana is one of the best top laners in a 1v2 situation because she can always farm with her pool. She's extremely hard to dive due to binding and black shield. So Morgana is just a fantastic pick here for the Wolves. And again, you get that supportive style. Even if it's going to be Lulu top lane for YoungBuck, you have still your 2 carries in Freeze and Soren on this Kassadin. MYM here, leaving the Kassadin open, must have some kind of counter ready for this mid lane matchup.
We'll see if they think Jayce is that choice, hovering it right now. But I really like the way that the Wolves have fleshed out their bot lane as well as the rest of their team comp. Seems like they're taking a leaf out of SK Gaming's book.
Yeah, for sure. Very, very good lanes. Strong all-around team fight coming in. We have seen Jayce being picked by Kori before. And obviously, Kassadin won't be able to use his magic shield in this matchup here. So we'll be pressured quite a lot in the lane. And that's going to be the pick for Kori. So for MYM side, you have again this mid-game siege. They had the same yesterday when they played Xerath and Corki together, but didn't really get to use it because they fell too far behind early. MYM. So Jwaow was shut down by Diamond and Caposhot together in that game here, so they really didn't manage to do anything with him. But in this case, again, as long as Maokai can just sit and farm and get his Rod of Ages, and you can use the Jayce Corki spike in this mid game, then there's not a lot of wave there on the side of Copenhagen Wolves because Morgana is not going to be sitting in the mid lane herself. She's going to be sitting and trying holding off in the side lane, maybe applying a bit of pressure, at least around the 15-20 minute mark. That's where MYM has an opening until Copenhagen will swap it around and send Kassadin to the side lane and Morgana to the mid lane to defend.
Exactly right. And typically where the Wolves have won, they have been these long, drawn-out slugfests. So, you know, doing their homework in that regard, at the very least, they've got that in their favor. But the key is, can the Wolves outlast this? Going back to that Jayce pick, that was perhaps the best performance Kori has had since he's been back with MYM, as the coaches shake hands. Walking off screen will be ready to load up in just a moment. I think this is definitely a bit different of a draft phase than we've seen from MeetYourMakers. The bans were very, very centrally focused, and they kind of, I think they had the plan, but I'm not entirely sure if that was what they wanted to do. What about you guys? What do you think what they wanted to do in that situation? Let us know who you think drafted the better one. Tweet us at LL Esports with the hashtag MYMWin or CWWin. We'll check out those results, but for now, the crowd is pumped. We're getting onto the Rift. It is MeetYourMakers taking on the Copenhagen Wolves.
And we're going to have to see if Copenhagen Wolves can keep up the small winning streak they've started. Been looking really good lately. Actually, a bit like H2K and the likes of Gambit, these middle-of-the-table teams just keep getting better every single week they play. We used to talk about Wolves being weak in the early game. Now suddenly against Fnatic they won the early game. Yesterday they won it as well against Rocket and had some very good strategy where Airwaks was actually following the enemy jungler around. So Copenhagen Wolves use a lot of time looking at the other teams and how their junglers play and how to try and counter it with their own.
Right, teams getting more competitive in this split as Freeze and MrRalleZ are going to have a bit of a dance-off in the river to start this one off. But dancing won't win you a game of League of Legends. They seem to think you can.
Maybe.
I don't know. I like those Graves steps. Whoop. Someone's going to take an early shock blast. Oh, wow. Jayce is rocking out.
It's really going to be a lot about this mid lane matchup for MYM. Remember, they left the Kassadin open, banned the 280 carries, and then still gave Graves over to Freeze. So Kori really needs to make some plays on Jayce here. And we're going to have to see if MYM is going to get standard lanes. If it's going to be standard lanes, it's in favor of Copenhagen Wolves. Morgana is going to push in this Maokai over and over, and Lulu Graves is such an aggressive lane level 1 and 2, where they can apply so much damage to you.
Starting to look like the Wolves are actually the ones instigating the lane swap. You see YoungBuck moving down bottom. Yeah, I think they might be anticipating this one, but MeetYourMakers are not indicating that they're going to go for that.
So this is not even a bad situation for Wolves, because now you have Morgana in a lane swap, and as we talked about before, she's one of the best top laners when it comes to farming in a 1 and 2 situation. So they actually had a fairly good situation where they could decide, okay, do we want to do standard lanes, or do we want to try and deny the Maokai quite a lot of farm, and then just have Morgana win that way in terms of the top laners. Start to go for the swap, doing a Grump as well, so not going to get a freeze for themselves. So that actually normally signals they were expecting MYM to be on the top side with their dual lane. Otherwise, you wouldn't do a camp at level 1.
Indeed, and speaking of freeze, they're heading their way up to the top lane. Take a look on what they're doing up there. Going to hold off for just a moment as Unlimited is actually going to be hanging out.
They can do an early gank here.
Yeah, they can. YoungBuck, Airwaks roaming together. He's got the red buff on. Kori's got to be in trouble. Has the acceleration gate, but he's triple teamed up. Do they have the damage? Throw down the soil, the flash answer. Horo was there for the defense, but a pair of summoners burned. Nobody dies.
A lot of people around this mid lane here. YoungBuck actually started with his pool for a better pull for Airwaks. In this case, no binding for him. They got to force the flash. Quite a lot of damage on Kori, which obviously buys a bit of time for Soren with the flask and potions here. So a lot about the sustain, and if Jayce can actually keep his mana up to poke out this Kassadin, doesn't look like it, and Soren is going to have a fine time now farming.
Yeah, that does seem to be the Wolves' plans. They try to get Soren in a pretty good situation.
MYM is roaming mid now.
Yep.
Except Jwaow
telegraph
walks straight into the lane.
Nisbeth is not going to be able to get within range of Soren either. Kori starts his back sequence. Nisbeth getting a little bit of warding out, so MeetYourMakers still having a few troubles with the execution.
Yeah, Jwaow right here. As soon as he saw YoungBuck and Airwaks in the mid lane, he should have just gone straight teleport to the top lane. The wave was being pushed in. He had a ward already. He could place over the wall so you can see if Copenhagen Wolves were moving up to dive him, and then he could just back away in time anyway. And he would have picked up 3 or 4 waves for himself at least. Maybe not the farm, but the XP. Instead, he actually walked to the mid lane, didn't gain anything, and just lost out on actually every single CS, because now Freeze has managed to clear it out and just have to tower kill all the minions.
Yeah, Jwaow is going to be set fairly far behind here. YoungBuck.
Not compared to YoungBuck, though.
Yeah,
but
he's kind of been a little behind himself, so it's not too bad of a deal.
That's the thing. Jwaow had an opening here. Because MYM is freezing the bottom lane, and Copenhagen Wolves haven't sent down Airwaks and YoungBuck to push it out, then Jwaow could actually gotten very far ahead in terms of farm and XP, but decided not to. Saved his teleport and tried for that mid lane roam, which didn't really do anything for him. Obviously now with Nisbeth showing himself in the top side, then it allows YoungBuck to get a one-on-one lane in the bot lane.
Indeed it does. You can see Horo prowling around that jungle. Soren could be in a little bit of trouble, not yet level 6, and he has a serious lead on farm, might be lulled into a false sense of security. Baited as Kori goes forward. There's the flash. Praise Seeker not going to connect, but he's going to tunnel and get the knock up. Soren, he's knocked into the wall, and that's first blood. It's hammer time for Kori.
Great first blood here by MYM, really knowing they have to shut down this Kassadin and get Kori rolling. He got the first blood as well. So despite him being ganked first, forced to flash away and fall behind in farm, they really get a good return or reply here onto Soren, and Jwaow now is going to share XP with Nisbeth while YoungBuck is getting solo farm and solo XP in the bottom side against MrRalleZ.
Yeah, Soren went a little too far forward, hoping he could take out Kori. You can see that fan vote on your screen. Copenhagen Wolves fans coming out in force, at least by factor 3-1 there, but right now the Wolves down 1 kill in this game. A bit of gold to go with that, as Freeze and Unlimited are hanging out in the top side, not aware exactly where Nisbeth is.
And we always see Airwaks be in the side where YoungBuck is and making sure he can always do well in the laning phase. It's been a tactic for Copenhagen Wolves. You know Freeze and Unlimited, they're one of the best dual lanes we have in Europe at this point. They can handle themselves, so just use your jungler to help YoungBuck, who has been somewhat of a weak point for the Wolves in terms of the laning phase, but he's always been a very strong top laner in team fights. So as long as you're getting past the early stages into this team fight, then he can really start making some work, doing some work for the Wolves.
Right, and it does allow, he can hang out a little bit close to the middle as well if Soren's going to need some help, but they do trust that Freeze and Unlimited are going to be able to take care of themselves in any given situation, and that opens up opportunities to be able to protect those other parts of the lane. In this situation, they also established Dragon Control doing it, so it's definitely a boon to the Wolves.
For sure, and you just see the Morgana here, despite being 2 levels down, normally the AD carry will be able to zone you away, but because you can just put down your pool and then back away, take 1 hit for it, you can keep getting enough farm.
Oh.
And that's very important for YoungBuck, because that was the old tactic for MYM, with Nisbeth leaving the lane early at level 1. So you want your AD carry to be 1 or 2 levels ahead of the enemy top lane, and when they get that one-on-one, and then he can't really farm because you force him away. Sadly, against Morgana, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, looks like we might have gank round 2. Oh, Nisbeth this time hanging out together. Oh, good timely ward. That is going to save Soren's bacon.
Good communication as well. Nisbeth leaving the top lane. There was a ward in the river. Seeing him walking down, then Soren responds. He's really been the target here for MYM, so they have a clear tactic. Get Kori ahead on this Jayce. Make sure Jwaow can farm, at least on Maokai. He needs obviously to get to his tanky point, Rod of Ages, for him as the first item. Always going to get a bit delayed when you're in a lane swap.
Speaking of Rod of Ages, Soren's not too close to completing that one either. A little bit further ahead, I would say, of Jwaow at that point, since he's not got an item component for it even yet. Soren, Horo's really been focusing on this side of the map, but he's got Rift Walk now. It's going to be a little harder to gank him. Here comes Kori again, knocks him back from the farm. Horo hasn't revealed.
It's going to be hard now for Rek'Sai to gank the Kassadin. You have your ulti up for Soren himself. Horo didn't use Flash though in the first game, so he has an option if he wants to try and go for it, but it will be a risky one, especially also because Soren is pushed so far back in his lane. You kind of have to go for a dive if you want to kill him. Otherwise, all you can do is try and force him away from some farm. And then you don't really gain too much from it. And you also show your jungler giving that information over to the Wolves.
Yeah, Wolves have invested decent bit in vision here. Quick rush of the side stone completed for Unlimited. In the top side, Soren eating another shock blast. Kori has done quite well in this lane so far, despite falling behind early. He did get that kill answer back. He's starting to stack his tier up as well, but it is Soren who's crying.
It is, and Copenhagen Wolves, for them, can decide to really hard push this top lane now, because there's only the Maokai left, and Morgana can basically wave clear for days in the bottom lane on her own. So even if MYM swaps Nisbeth down to this bottom side, yes, you might give up the dragon, but taking a tower for you is more than worth it early game, and that's exactly what Copenhagen Wolves are doing now. Notice that Nisbeth leaves the lane, Jwaow on his own, not able to defend.
Yep. They push him back. They grab that first turret of the game. Now seeing this one, Horo's going to actually proc the dragon. They've got enough people in the area. If MeetYourMakers can get out with this one, it'll be a really good trade for them. And they've got plenty of people to take care of it. Still a teleport, even if Copenhagen Wolves did want to contest, but they're not making moves in that direction. This one's going to go over to MYM.
Yeah, so again, they're trading the tower for the first dragon, so preferring the global gold over the 6% AP and AD, so the Wolves looking to complete items instead of just getting pure stats for themselves. And now you can go down to this bottom lane. Your tower is full HP in the top side. Your tower in the bottom lane as well should be fairly healthy due to the Morgana, so you just come out ahead of the lane swap with a tower advantage, but just down in terms of the dragons.
Yeah, not only that, Nisbeth MrRalleZ is getting some serious damage out in this turret. Freeze is here
Barely.
to be able to try to push it back. But yeah, he's a level down on MrRalleZ. He's going to be a little bit careful. Neither support have their ultis. Those roams early have really put a damper on their experience levels. A limited level 5, Nisbeth level 4. It's going to be a while before they're going to have the battle stats they need to get involved.
Yeah, it does mean, however, this Annie is a very easy target for Airwaks if he goes for a gank to the bottom lane. EQ in, force a flash, and then you ulti on her because he's so low level. Very squishy. No tippers to respond either, so it could be a target for Copenhagen Wolves if they want a fairly easy first kill for them. For now, it's just all about defending their own turret, making sure you have that small global gold advantage, and also have Soren sit and farm the mid lane.
Indeed, that is what they're looking to do. Pinging out YoungBuck, speaking of the mid lane, he's making moves in that direction now. Jwaow has tried to get a little bit of his farm on in the top. So far, successfully haven't left it alone after the tower. Here comes Horo on Airwaks, but he just pushes him off. That's my ward.
Still a small little smart trick by Airwaks. Instead of walking into the bush so you can see the pink ward and then you're standing in there and hitting it, he places a ward first so he can actually stand outside and easily EQ over the wall if someone was going to jump him. So Horo was staying nearby waiting for him. Did manage to force a flash. And instead did get to defend the pink ward, however.
Horo goes ahead and sells his Stalker's Blade, gets the skirmishers, as Kori continues to jam out in this mid lane.
We always see it against Jarvans here in Europe. Again, the Jarvan one-on-one, he will use his combo EQ to get onto you, so he can't get back out unless he has flash ready. And that's again where once he uses EQ, you pop the skirmishers, you take 20% less damage, you get true damage as well, and suddenly you win that one-on-one. But we talked about this gank in the bottom lane. Nisbeth is still only level 5, but he's staying very far back and not getting killed here by Airwaks or the Wolves.
Yeah, Freeze with the help of Airwaks and Unlimited pushes forward, gets a little damage out onto MrRalleZ. He's going to be able to sustain heal that one back up. Kori, meanwhile, halfway between lane and river, is going to be moving it back to the mid himself. Finds a pink ward, didn't need to sweep it, but he got it all the same.
And we're just waiting for Trinity Force to be completed for MrRalleZ and a Brutalizer being picked up by Kori. And then you can actually see MYM start grouping and having a lot of poke damage. No poke response from Copenhagen Wolves' side. Low range AD carrying Graves. Only thing you have is landing a binding from YoungBuck. Otherwise, you won't be able to deal any damage back to MYM. And then suddenly you're also forced to send in your Morgana to the mid lane to sit and wave clear. Otherwise, MYM can actually push down these turrets fairly easily. And Nisbeth is caught out.
That ward, I hope it was worth it. He only gets 3 shots before Freeze takes him down.
And we just
with
saw
the big one.
We just saw a difference here. When Airwaks went to the bush with the pink ward, he placed a ward so you can stay outside, fairly safe and clear it. Nisbeth, he walked into the bush itself, stood next to the ward, tried to clear it, and therefore being caught out. Had he placed the ward himself, if he actually had any, didn't see if he had at that time, then he could stand very far back and try and clear the pink.
Yeah, all the more reason to pick up that Sightstone. He does get it, but they protect the ward in this case, so MYM give up a kill themselves. 15 minutes into the game, they still have that dragon advantage. Jwaow, not going to get hit by that Dark Binding. It goes wide.
He didn't have a ward, poor Nisbeth, so he should never have made that play. It's way too risky to move in and obviously end up dying for it.
Too easy to pick him off, too. He's still not level 6.
Yeah, again, he's very squishy. Now Airwaks,
MrRalleZ. He could be in some trouble. Going to Valk early. There's the flag, and Dragon Nisbeth landing down the stun. MrRalleZ will get away. He's got quite a lot of experience over some of these Copenhagen Wolves, but they are getting pushed back.
And you really see now Airwaks saying, okay, YoungBuck, you are more than fine. You had a good start to the game, so you can handle yourself in this Morgana and Maokai lane one-on-one. So I'm now going to put my focus on the bottom lane instead, where we know we are stronger, and we can actually press our advantage to take down a tower in this case. Got a kill earlier as well in this, but obviously not due to Airwaks, but still, this is just power play from the Copenhagen Wolves, recognizing, okay, where do we have the strongest lane? Where can we take out the turrets before MYM starts grouping up? That was the bot lane in this case.
Yeah, certainly able to do it. Nisbeth hanging out with Kori in this mid lane, and it doesn't seem like he's really needed it too much, but they are going to make moves in the direction of the Dragon Pit. It's about a minute and a half to go. They're going to pick up the blue ward to try to establish some more vision control, but the Wolves have been pretty diligent in actually warding out this side of the jungle. Earlier on, they were able to ping out Horo as he void rushed down there just because they had wards on his tunnels.
Yeah, always putting a lot of focus and deep wards for them. MYM though in this game, a better start than we often see for them. In this case here, you got some decent farm on Jayce, on the Corki, so your two very important carries here for the mid game. Let's see if Kori can actually go back and get it brutalized on this. He should be able to pick it up now, and then you can see them group with the Corki and the Jayce together and really start landing their poke. Don't go back to your standard lanes, because then you allow Copenhagen Wolves to just buy a bit more time and sit and just farm away. Really put some pressure on the lanes now.
We'll see if they're able to do that one. Copenhagen Wolves going to be looking to grab their first dragon. It's 25 seconds away. Bit of vision for both teams on that side, but the Wolves are the ones pushing in this mid turret. Kori's going to try to rush to push this one back.
And this again was also why Copenhagen Wolves put so much focus on the bottom lane with Airwaks and taking down this turret, so they can then make the swap and send Freeze and Unlimited, the wave that you have, together with the Morgana to the mid lane before MYM got to group up, as we mentioned. And now Soren can sit and farm here. Yes, his turret will be tough to defend, especially because Horo is now down here in his bottom lane. But remember, there's still a jump on a Kassadin. It'll be very hard to kill him.
He's playing it safe anyways right now. Don't want to give up a crucial kill this close to that dragon as MeetYourMakers actually start collapsing on that one. Still some vision here, going to be spotted out for the Wolves. We could have a fight on our hands, Deficio.
Yeah, MYM, they need to land some poke first. If they get hard engaged on by Copenhagen Wolves, before poking them down, they will end up losing the fight itself. Outlast just completed from YoungBuck. He's running. Same for Jwaow and that Rod of Ages, so we're going to see a big fight here. MYM needs to go into that area and start actually setting up in terms of the pink and denying vision, so they can land the poke to Copenhagen Wolves first and not just allow them to straight up engage in a team fight. There we go.
Clear out the vision, try to deny as much as you can. Shock Blast going to hit Airwaks in the back of the head, and YoungBuck's Dark Binding is not going to land. Neither team going to attempt for this one just yet. Soren making his way up. He's in danger of being cut off if MeetYourMakers turns back. They're trying to apply some pressure on this mid, so hopefully to draw MeetYourMakers away.
It's a good position actually for MYM to defend their turret and still try and land the poke over the wall. We even saw the pink ward earlier being placed. Oh, Kori. He's poked out now. Suddenly Copenhagen Wolves straight for the dragon.
Yeah, they're going to make moves. They've got the map control on their side. Now they've moved Kori away. Ooh, they caught MrRalleZ on the Dark Binding. Just going to throw down the Tormented Soil and a little Glare Lance at the end of it, or rather a Help Picks. That dragon is being started up, but MeetYourMakers still not going to try to push this back because it's a 5v4.
Well, they can at least push it in, get some damage on it. Remember, it's been a Kassadin lane, so the turret is probably already down around 50% mark, as we see right here. So just pushing it in, at least the minions, realizing they have to back away. Kori is not here yet. But that was a poke wall lost by MYM, despite them having the stronger combat descent, but they're going in.
Yep, they are now Unlimited getting popped. Jwaow coming up big, and YoungBuck forced to pop his Zanya's Hourglass as he does manage to get one locked up on the Soul Shackles. He goes down all the same. A 2-for-0 fight to MeetYourMakers, and it looks like they're getting the tower on top.
They can get 2 turrets from this one here. Just keep pushing down. You have the vintage, you have the tippers. That was just a quick turnaround and a lot of bursts coming in from the likes of Corki and Jayce at this point. To blow up 2 targets onto Airwaks as well.
Yeah, they try to move for him. Jwaow was when he took some poke, but Horo says you can't go anywhere. They turn off the tower, but they get another kill.
Remember that MYM, the only win they've gotten this season was against the Copenhagen Wolves. And now they're actually off to a very good, should we say, mid-game. 3 kills for them. 2 turrets, or 1 turret in the mid lane as well. As long as you keep grouping and relying on your poke, you should be able to extend your goal lead.
This is one of the better openings we've seen played against the Wolves in the last couple weeks. Let's take a look at how that fight went again.
Again, so remember, Corki and Jayce at this point have so much burst damage. So as soon as Jwaow actually finds a target, Unlimited, he dies instantly right here. And now it's just cleanup time for MYM. YoungBuck with the Hourglass not going to save him. And obviously just allows him now to push down for this turret as well.
Yeah, really clear-cut case there. So as they were grouped up, MeetYourMakers were able to take advantage. 18.5 minutes in, and yep, they do control the gold lead. Only by about 1,000, but that's all you need to start this one off. A dragon apiece, and Copenhagen Wolves, despite the fact that they have been performing exceptionally well the last couple weeks, are finding themselves in a slight deficit.
Yeah, it's only going to get worse once Kori gets his last Whisper completed. You need that armor penetration for your Shock Blast to hurt. Because obviously remember, when it comes to these spells, Getting that percent damage from the armor penetration is always better than just flat AD, unless you have an insane AD ratio on this build, which Jayce does not have on his Shock Blast, so the armor penetration very early for him, or very important for him, for the Shock Blast damage. And he's getting very close to it at this point. If there comes in a BT as well from MrRalleZ, then it's going to be so hard for Wolves to actually even engage, or again, try and poke back just with this Morgana, because there's going to be enough lifesteal for MrRalleZ to take a few hits, even from a tower, and still stay around.
Yeah, MrRalleZ has been pretty solid, even if he hasn't been able to come up with a kill yet, just finding some damage in the backline. It's Kori who's been picking up that serious gold lead over Soren. See if that continues here. He's going to find YoungBuck in the brush. He wanders directly into it, and there is the Soul Shackles, or the Dark Binding, I should say. Soul Shackles going to complete after that one, and Kori very, very close. He took quite a lot of that sustained damage, but he nearly found a pick.
At early hourglass here, paying off for YoungBuck with the armor, ends up staying alive, but still MYM. They shouldn't be sending the Jayce to a side lane. They should be running Jayce and Corki together at this point. Again, use your poke, use your siege. While the Wolves are too weak to engage onto you, Airwaks has 0 tanky items. You can burst him down like we saw in that last fight with Unlimited and YoungBuck. Don't allow Copenhagen Wolves to split up in a 1-3-1 and buy more time. It's the latest siege here. It's time for MYM to really show what they can do.
Exactly right. This is their power spike. Now that Trinity Force completed, now they've got the last Whisper on the Jayce. They have a chance to rush this one down. They've blown a hole in the middle. See if they can push their edge here. But right now, they're giving the Wolves a chance and a break.
Top tower can be an easy target, especially after this blue buff.
Early smite.
Actually went over to Soren.
Bit of a missed timing there. Soren's able to grab that one.
But yeah, there should be a top tower now for MYM after taking a bit of control of the jungle. Already having the wave pushed down at this point. And then they have a TP, but Kori was caught in between the lanes, not really knowing where to go. They do manage to defend this one. Send now the Maokai down to the bottom lane. Defend that wave as well. And you have these 4 guys together. Yes, you don't have a TP advantage, so you have to play a bit more careful, watch your flanks, so you don't allow YoungBuck to TP in behind you. But just use your poke here, use your insane poke to get a bigger goal lead.
Looks like what they are trying to do here. Grouping in the mid lane, but not committing to the push just yet. They don't have vision on all the members of the Copenhagen Wolves.
Yeah, and again, no teleport for Jwaow.
Controlling some vision, though, here by the Dragon Pits. A minute and a half to go, so it's a little bit early here. But yeah, YoungBuck, ooh, he's going to eat a big Shock Blast. Once again, courtesy of Kori.
And that was onto a target who's currently sitting on 125 armor, and he did that much damage. If he lands it onto Freeze, or Soren in this case, they get chunked down almost 50% of their HP. Follow that with a rocket and they're back to base, which is all that matters for a poke comp. You don't have to get kills. It's all about just forcing people to recall at bad timing, so you take over objectives like towers, dragons, you get the vision control as well, because they're constantly forced to go back to base and heal up due to your insane amount of poke. But for now, again, MYM has been delaying it quite a lot. They got the top turret, then they had to use the teleport to go back and defend, which means they're not feeling confident enough to actually group, knowing that Jwaow can't join. They want him again in a side lane with YoungBuck here to make sure the lane's always being controlled. They can still go just with him in mid lane as well if they want to win. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, that maybe they can afford to sit back and push a little bit. The Wolves just cannot afford to take that kind of damage that Kori is able to dish out in these situations, and that poke is really what is enabling them to push out of the map.
MrRalleZ is stuck in the top lane at the moment, playing the minion. Oh. And look at this. Teleport behind from YoungBuck. He's not spotted.
Going on a sneaky scouting mission, or rather a flank attack. They're going to find Horo in the pit. He's going to jump his way out. Jwaow, they turn their attention. Soren comes up with the pick on a Horo as Jwaow is trying to tank the front line there as the Soul Shackles. YoungBuck, he should be able to find it, but they found Kori as well. It is a 3-for-none. Copenhagen Wolves surround and take out MeetYourMakers and a dragon.
And it was looking so good for MYM. Definitely the best start we've seen in a long time for them. And then this happens. Your AD carry sitting and farming top lane. Dragon spawns, and you still move in with 4 guys to try and contest it. It was even them actually engaging on the fight, or at least being part of starting the fight. And obviously, Copenhagen Wolves with 5 guys just collapse. Look again here. MrRalleZ sitting in the top lane. MYM playing very aggressive, then suddenly being caught up because they're walking into the Dragon area. YoungBuck obviously comes in from behind. Easy 5 versus 4 for the Wolves. Dragon as well. Not really sure what MYM were trying to do.
Looked like their target prioritization was a little bit off in that situation as well. Very chaotic fight, but those deep wards for the Copenhagen Wolves paid off once again. This time it was YoungBuck able to teleport flank around, caught MYM by surprise when they thought they had a numbers advantage. And 1, 2, 3, they got a dragon and 3 kills. Right back like that, they've tied up the game.
For sure, Copenhagen Wolves punish MYM. Again, can't really come as a surprise that Morgana has a teleport when she hasn't used it for such a long time. But anyway, for MYM, this will delay them quite a lot. They still haven't been able to group. Teleport is going to be ready for Jwaow now, so he can sit in that side lane. And we see MYM now grouping up as 4. BT is completed. No magic penetration for MrRalleZ yet, but they still have enough poke damage. They gotta use the spike here, otherwise we get to that point where Copenhagen Wolves can actually start engaging on to MYM. Because Airwaks, he's starting to get a few tank items for himself.
Oh. They're going to need a tank. Freeze is looking a little battered and bruised as he trades out with MrRalleZ in the mid lane. Soren, Airwaks gonna back away as MYM asserts their control in that mid. YoungBuck actually moving forward here onto Jwaow. Thinks he might be able to get some damage onto him. 25 minutes into this game, the Wolves have answered back in kind. MeetYourMakers struggling to really find specific objectives here. They are just kind of trying to group and look for picks.
Yeah, Copenhagen was just buying time again, trying to delay MYM from grouping up as a team. And MYM, because they haven't actually had any pink wards in the jungle of Copenhagen Wolves, they haven't denied any vision, so they don't feel like they can just go for a crazy push and avoiding the flank. A lot of wards still placed by both teams in that area. And now instead MYM saying, okay, we build up a wave bot lane like they did in the top lane. We send 5-man down and we just try and use our numbers advantage and a little bit faster rotation to get a free turret. So 2 turrets for them now in top and bot lane. But the Copenhagen Wolves are looking to fight.
Might not be free after all. Airwaks jumps ahead, a little ahead of his team. Soren has to pop his Zanya's hourglass. It's a 5 versus 4, but Soren is going to even the score. He finds Kori. Jwaow blown up in the back. YoungBuck was able to find something. It's a double kill for Soren. Can he get some more? Nisbeth served up on a silver platter. How about a triple kill for Soren?
Again, for Copenhagen Wolves here, they know they can take the fights as long as MYM doesn't land any poke beforehand. We see the same. MYM rotated down to take a tower. And then Copenhagen will say, okay, fair enough, we lost it, but now we can engage onto you. We can win the fight again. Great ulti from YoungBuck, great engage from Airwaks, and of course Soren with the cleanup.
Yeah, Airwaks really started that one off. It looked like just a moment too early, but it bought just enough time for his team to jump in, jump back, jump around the side. Let's take a look at how that one happened.
Again, everyone from Copenhagen was full HP before the fight starts. They get onto Kori first. Soren can follow up here. Early hourglass, he doesn't want to take any damage and then flash after Kori in the end. I believe no, Kori just goes back in and then he gets the kill for himself. And now you see YoungBuck flashing in, gets the ulti onto 4 people. I'm really wrong in this replay. There's no flash from YoungBuck either, but he got the ulti onto a lot of people and killed them.
It really looked like they were flashing around with how quick they were moving, but yeah.
No flashes here, just a lot of ultis.
They did manage to get that 4-4-1 trade, so the Wolves just, again, we talked to Dennis a little bit backstage about this. They love practicing their skirmishes, making sure that they are, in their own eyes, the best team for the skirmishes, and they are really showing up here in those situations, those chaotic fights. A really big score for them, and they've started to get a gold lead in this game.
Yeah, and again, they avoided that mid-game spike from MYM, where they never really got to push too much. Now onto Jwaow, he's very tanky, but it's against 3 guys. Rek'Sai coming
enough? Yeah, he's going to have some backup from Horo in just a minute. Do they have the chance to move back in? He's actually going to Twisted Advance Soren. They've cut him up, the knock-up, the Wild Growth as well. Excuse me, didn't use that one just yet. It wasn't off cooldown. That's MrRalleZ coming up with a kill onto Airwaks. They're looking for him as well, and they blow him up. Jwaow still tanking through this line, but not for much longer. MeetYourMakers, they double down, and they lose big. It's another 4-for-1. This time a double kill goes to Freeze.
And again, Copenhagen Wolves just looking so good in these fights. YoungBuck teleporting in, another great ulti from him, and just cleanup duty for the rest of the team as soon as the targets will lock down. And obviously, Freeze with good positioning.
You know, these look so messy when they begin. It's just even hard to tell how they're going to happen, but the Wolves just keep coming out ahead in these. Kori now trying to stealth back away. He gets a little spooked by Soren wandering a little too close. He's actually going to hang out by this red buff. There we go, starts his back, and they're not going to see him.
Bit of a solo mission from Kori. So let's see it again. They're onto Jwaow first. Let's look at the minimap, how people are moving. MrRalleZ goes first. Freeze joins in as well. Annie at this point is fairly far away, and Kori is actually stuck in the bottom lane. So again, MYM, they take a fight where they know they will be in a numbers disadvantage, and that's why once the teleport comes from YoungBuck, the fight is basically over. Despite trading a kill here, or getting a kill for MYM first, now there are only 4 guys. Kori has just made it to the mid lane, And it's happened before for them in this game. They pick a few fights where they're not 5 guys around, and then Copenhagen Wolves capitalize on it.
Yeah, they got juked in that situation. I got juked a little bit too. I didn't think he did use the wild growth. I thought that was the Rek'Sai knockup, but I got turned around. YoungBuck is going to take a 180 himself as he eats one of those shock blasts, but MYM, they might be wanting to back off this dragon, hold it as far as it's going to go, but they're a little scared of the damage that Copenhagen Wolves can throw out. There's a lot of the poke. They're not able to connect with the Dark Binding, however, and it looks like we have a good old-fashioned standoff.
Standoff, though, in favor of MYM in terms of the damage they can provide, but they have to be careful with their positioning here, because Soren can flank around them, and if Copenhagen Wolves actually started pushing the mid lane as well, that's suddenly another opening if they force MYM to stay here, because they only have one choke point they can kind of walk in and out of. So they're in a bit of a risky position to get flanked around. Looks like Copenhagen was actually not looking towards the mid lane at all, just taking a lot of poke in their face.
Yeah, YoungBuck
now they go towards
bearing the brunt of that. And yeah, Soren, he moved from that bottom side. They're going to give this one up and actually just clear some mini waves out in the mid. So MeetYourMakers, even the Dragon score 30 minutes into the game. That
is what MYM can do with their comp. It just becomes harder and harder now the further we get into the game, because we see these armor items being built by the likes of Airwaks, so you can actually take some damage now. MYM showing at least a bit of the poke they can do.
Horo has been pretty proactive this game, as he usually is. The biggest issue, it seems, for MYM is historically they just haven't been able to have provide any follow-up for him. But this game, MeetYourMakers is really starting to show what they can do when they come together as a team. It's just that the Wolves seem to be a little better in those chaotic situations.
Yeah, I feel like when you look at MYM, it's not because they're bad players. Like, player for player, in terms of mechanics, they actually have some very, very strong plays. We see Kori against Soren now in his bottom lane.
See if he can do something there. He's actually going to find quite a lot of the damage, and I don't know about that flash. Well, I guess it did. Wait a minute. Yeah, he did use it.
Again, so the thing is, for MYM, they have good individual players, but as a team, it's just not been working. They don't really have the shot calling. They don't know exactly when to group up for certain spikes and when to use them and how to play their comps. But player for player, still, they are very good. Kori in this one-on-one with Soren.
He gets so much burst damage out of that.
So low, yeah. Soren at this point popped the ulti onto Kori as well, but now he just tries to run away, ends up dying for a waste.
Tries to juke
no
with
E
the
or
flash.
Q for him in the very end. Must have been just a second off in terms of cooldowns, and Kori wins the one-on-one.
So not only do they get that kill, they get that summoner blown as well on Soren. He's actually he's a pretty good score line on this game, 5-2-6, but when you see those kinds of things, you got to think maybe that's a little bit of a rough time for him. Kori really has found some life on this Jayce, but see if he can really output the damage that they need, because this poke comp is starting to not necessarily have as powerful of a meaning as it will later on in the game.
100% agree.
Other way around. They're going to get less powerful as the game goes on.
Less powerful. You already saw the poke they did before. It was great as long as they could stay and keep hitting shock blasts for just 1 or 2 now. Copenhagen Wolves can still engage after. And when just didn't manage to get a goal lead at Tali when they actually had the chance, and they were 4-1 in terms of kills early on. They had 2,000 goal lead as well. And that's where Copenhagen Wolves managed to buy time and then get the big team fights 5-on-5, where we've seen them being strong all game long.
Yeah, they did back off when they seemed to have a very powerful moment for themselves, but this has allowed Copenhagen Wolves to get back into this game. They control a 3,000 gold lead, looking to chase onto Horo right now, slowed down by one of those saplings. Horo makes good his escape, and Kori comes back to the mid to defend. They really have spent a lot of time in this lane.
I would really like to see a Locket coming in from MYM as well. On their side, Jwaow gets this double AP.
Triple if you count the Lulu,
even
right?
if you count the Lulu, yeah, in that case. So Locket should be an item coming in for Horo. Spirit Visage, a bit of a greedy choice for him. In this case, yes, it works on a Rek'Sai with obviously a passive, which is under the ground. But Locket for your entire team, in my opinion, would have been better.
Let's see if they do vary that one up a little bit later. For now, just sitting on that giant spell. Teams have seemed to agree to a temporary truce. Nobody wants to make the moves on each other just yet. No objectives to fight over on the map. Decent amount of river wards here, though, for the Copenhagen Wolves, but they've lost most of the deep wards they have in the jungle. There's still that one sitting around the red pit of MeetYourMakers. They're going to be unaware of that one, but they will be able to clear the one on the backside.
Yeah, and again for Copenhagen Wolves, not really looking to create anything. More or less waiting for MYM to group up and then go for the fight. You have Flash ready for Airwaks. He can go in. YoungBuck can follow up himself. He's sitting nicely and farming. Or getting a pink ward. And now, tell you what, behind from YoungBuck here. This is the fight Copenhagen was looking for.
Yep, MYM's not quite sure of it yet. YoungBuck is going to try to find Jwaow. They've got the knock up, the Soul Shackles moving away. There's a quick Zhonya's to avoid the shock blast. Jwaow zoned out of the fight as Soren picks up Kori very quickly. Nisbeth chased away. The front line has not been able to catch up to the back line as Airwaks is going to look like he's going to almost take out Jwaow. That's Freeze coming up with it. However, they've lost Soren, but they've managed to pick up 2. Can they get even more? Freeze tanking tower shots. Looks like the Wolves have been pushed back for the time being, but they do have the numbers advantage.
And once again, the team.
Oh, not quite enough. Maybe they'll lose that one. Summoner heal blown away. They land a dark binding on Horo. Maybe look for him. Not enough damage. Just barely. The help picks didn't quite help enough, and tower goes down.
But we see the same. Every time Copenhagen Wolves can engage onto MYM, they win the fights. There's no peel on the side of MYM. Second game where they run like a siege poke comp and not pick Janna but take an engage support instead. Home guard teleport from YoungBuck to start it. Not the best ulti from him, but as long as you start the fight and you catch Kori at least with the Jarvan, you can still win it.
Yeah, they created enough of that chaos to throw MeetYourMakers completely out of balance, and they come up with the winning fight in this situation. See, even Tibbers is confused. Not sure which direction to go.
I'm not sure if Nisbeth actually plays Janna, because it's been an option for him twice now. I really feel like it would fit in so well. So at least try and help his long-range poke carries here. And yet, goes for the aggressive option, and MYM is not a team who makes the plays. Or hasn't been at least. They're picking some comps which can be fairly hard to play, and doesn't really seem to know how to pull them off. And that's been their main problem.
Yeah, I think execution is definitely the name of the game for MeetYourMakers. Got to work on that one. So far, Copenhagen Wolves have come up a little bit better in that regard, moving their way towards this dragon. A bunch of wards around the side for MeetYourMakers, but they're not going to be able to grab this, even with the grab control. That is going to be another dragon in the pockets of the Wolves. They pick up number 3.
And obviously, Nisbeth has played Janna beforehand. Not because he's not played it in the LCS, but in this case, we didn't get to see enough about that one. MYM still had a good start to the game. That's a positive thing for them. They've lost many, many games in a row. Only team they've beaten so far is Copenhagen Wolves, who they're facing now. They need to get a win on the board so they can get closer to Giants and get away from this number 10 spot that automatically relegates you to the Challenger Series. No chance of playing relegation. So for them, at least take some of the positive from the early game. Go back and look at it and say, okay, how could we push our lead? What did we do wrong? And use that next week. Because every week counts for them. It's almost fun to call them a new team. But because they've made some roster changes with Horo, Jwaow, and Nisbeth, like all 3 fairly new players, 2 of them for this split, and obviously Jwaow just for this week, they haven't really found the teamwork or the strategy yet. That's the thing they need to work on.
Well, they have found YoungBuck on a number of these occasions, to say the least. But you're right, they do seem to have some struggles moving together. This time they've got 4 members moving down the mid. Look to maybe take a quick tower. However, the Wolves are collapsing. You got to be careful there. YoungBuck, they're going to move on to him right now. He's got the Soul Shackles out. He does have the Zhonya's Hourglass. Kori, they've caught him together, and Freeze coming up with a big kill, but they've lost YoungBuck. It's still a 4v4. Never mind, make that a 4v3. Nisbeth takes down Airwaks. The Wolves might actually be going down in this case. That's going to be a double kill for MrRalleZ.
What a team fight. Again, Copenhagen was trying with the flank. They catch our YoungBuck first, force him just to ulti on the tanks himself. Kori goes down like every other fight because he's going to be the main target. But there was so much AoE damage being returned from MYM, and they're trying for this Baron.
Yeah, they certainly are. See if they can zone it out. Tibbers is already down. Freeze, he's not keen to get involved in this one. MYM, they might have been able to pull this off. Jwaow frontlining as he gets ignited for his trouble. This Baron, though, it's still not quite low enough. It's at about 5,000 health. As you said, the Maelstrom is on. Here comes Jwaow. Gonna turn attention onto Freeze, and they shut him down. Nisbeth with the pick. They managed to find Baron, another. Yeah. It's an ace for just a couple seconds. Right back to the Baron. MeetYourMakers. Here they go.
After losing every single team fight in the game, they managed to win the one in the mid-game here from Copenhagen. It was such a nice setup from them with the tanks onto YoungBuck to stop him from getting onto the backline itself and just to clean up. Let's see it again. So it's Copenhagen was trying to flank. Airwaks and YoungBuck from the top side here. Notice how YoungBuck is forced to ulti only on the tanks themselves. Kori's actually got it, but he walked out of it straight away. He goes down, but now MrRalleZ, he's left completely untouched, and he's just running cleanup duty. So much damage from him coming in, and suddenly MYM actually winning a fight.
Yeah, they are the ones who took advantage of all that craziness. The Wolves thought they had the proper collapse. Didn't quite work. Airwaks went in a little bit ahead. It worked out the last couple times he's tried it, but they just blew him up too fast. Not quite as tanky as he thinks. Even though he's got the Thornmail and the Randuin's Omen, they were still able to take him down pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's doing what he should do. Always target out this Jayce and just blow him up instantly. The Corki obviously can jump out of the ulti from Airwaks, so I feel like that's fine if you trade mid laner for jungler. It was more the fact that YoungBuck actually couldn't get off a good ulti for himself, and then Freeze and Soren didn't get in a good position because nobody really got locked down after Kori had died, and suddenly they were fairly easy targets for MYM to chase on and kill. So that was just a good setup, a good reaction from MYM as a team.
Indeed it was. Now taking a look across the map here, they have a chance to start pushing this one in. It's very difficult for the Wolves to straight up engage unless they get the catch on to MeetYourMakers. That poke is still very, very dangerous. And with the Baron, they bought themselves some more time, and Limited's going to find out, yep, that's where Kori was.
In his face. They can go back to this 1-4 if they want to, but if they don't want to risk getting a hard engage and have to teleport down from Jwaow, just run 5 together. Use your Baron buff, at least with 2 lanes, because you have the Rek'Sai ulti on the other side who can actually join in instantly. So at least pushing 2 lanes, but just use your poke once again.
Oh!
Not like that.
Well, talk about that kind of poke. That's going to be Freeze coming up with a quick 1-2, and they're looking for a little bit more. Airwaks locks up Kori. Thought he'd locked up MrRalleZ, but they're able to take him down, however. The rest of the Wolves still roaming together. MeetYourMakers, that's a 1-for-1 trade. Support for jungle.
Still though, no reason for MYM to go into the jungle. Stay in the lanes where you can see everything. Watch your 2 flanks, and then Copenhagen Wolves suddenly cannot engage onto you and just start pushing down. You got even the second dragon for 15% more damage on the turret. You got the buffed up minions. There you go. Easy tower for you. Well played in the end for them with the tower and Hori. Horror. It was a mix of horror and Huni, but just pushing it in.
Yep.
So MYM at least managed to get that 1 tower and trading 1-for-1.
They do manage to get a little bit more minion damage on that one. So MeetYourMakers making use of this Baron buff. Again, the gold's just about evened out, 500 separating these 2 teams. However, there's a slight dragon advantage for the Wolves. We'll see if that stays the same because there's about 30 seconds on that next one to spawn. A lot of wards and a lot of Rek'Sai tunnels in the backside of that pit, however, for MeetYourMakers.
You can see Kori going for the Infinity Edge on Jayce here, simply because your W, when you activate it, will give you obviously 110% attack speed, like max out your attack speed to 2.5 seconds. And then at the same, then you just get like these 2 or 3 hits really, really fast, where you have the Infinity Edge for insane amount of burst. But it requires him to stay alive, at least for a few seconds in these fights. And once again, both jump him.
They zoomed into the back. Airwaks isolated from the team. Kori's going to pick him up, and they are going for more right now. They haven't lost Jwaow. Well, they just lose Jwaow, excuse me. I'm corrected. It's a double kill going over to Freeze. Copenhagen Wolves, they might have still find the outfight here. Soren in the middle. They're going to take down Kori. They're going to look for more. Freeze, a quadra kill. I don't believe it. He gets that one. However, they nearly lose that fight. Soren, the last man on the map.
Last man, well, YoungBuck is there as well in this case.
Never mind, I got you.
We see the same. Airwaks, he goes in, he sacrificed himself just to try and get the backline, buy some time. Copenhagen Wolves this time around managed to get a good jump onto MYM and actually win the fight.
Freeze just dancing around this team, and you know, it looked like it was bad for just a moment. Airwaks jumps in, he's totally isolated from his team, but they really, really follow up. And as a result, they're going to get this inhibitor. It's 10 seconds about till Jwaow is going to come back up. They can turn tail, move straight onto the Baron, or the Dragon rather, if they want, but they're actually just going to back away. They've still got time on the board, though.
We'll have some time. Let's see it again. So, MYM was setting up around the Dragon. Copenhagen was go for another engage. Airwaks, he's killing himself by doing this, but he just buying time. The 2 carries are focusing on him now, while Copenhagen will take down Jwaow, the big tank from MYM. And now, ulti from YoungBuck to zone them away. Freeze show is about to start. Full HP on his own, BT as well. Then he can go in, Soren as well with the Kassadin. This is the cleanup duty Copenhagen Wolves can always do.
And then that flash for the triple on the quad.
Then he dies, no penta.
But yeah, it's okay. Soren able to mop that one up at the end of it all. So yeah, the Wolves, again, they love these crazy fights. Now they're going to be able to get this dragon. This is number 4. It's really important, but Horo is still here. He doesn't want to go in for the steals. The rest of the team's not there, and they have to start covering their mid since they don't have that inhibitor anymore. The Copenhagen Wolves are going to have that extra bit of damage thanks to dragon buff numero 4.
And that pushing power at least, and obviously 6 minutes time, the 5th dragon for them. Let's start pushing. You have the super minions now coming in the mid lane. You know that MYM is not going to engage on you, but going to try and poke you out. So as long as Copenhagen Wolves don't go into a stupid base race here, which they won't, they're going to recall. And MYM realizing, okay, they're not falling for that one.
It's like you know the Copenhagen Wolves, Deficio.
Actually, not at all. I've never played with any of these guys except for Freeze. Back then, well, it was a different time. It was a lot easier playing League of Legends. You would make sure your mid laner, who was called Bjergsen at that time, or Nukedogs if you were Lemon Dogs, would get a good start on an assassin, and then you would just sit back and watch him win the game for you.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It was good fun.
Well, fast forwarding back into Season 5 right now. 30 seconds.
That's of course not what happened. Well, it did happen on NIP for us, but Lemon Dogs, all their players were actually absolutely fantastic at their role, and they were one of the most dominant teams we have seen in Europe in terms of just one split, until at least we reached the playoffs where they lost to Fnatic.
History lessons. Oh, Airwaks. He's just standing right on there. Guardian Angel's going to get popped by Kori as they use the Wild Growth all the same. Horo's the one that gets caught on the Dark Binding Tormented Soil for a little bit extra damage, but this is all a distraction. Freeze was trying to take the secret mission on that bottom side tower, able to get it down to about half health.
So just trying to spread out MYM a little bit here, move the wave play around, apply some pressure, but honestly, it's tough to push in against Jayce, Corki, Poke, and Copenhagen Wolves. You don't really want to dive too deep, but in behind the tower, near the fountain as well. So that is the risk for them. If they do manage to push up here, they might be forced into somewhat of a tower dive. That's where MYM can still bite back and win it. So honestly, Copenhagen Wolves just going to wait it out. Have another dragon, have the Baron spawn, set up around the Baron instead. Try and bait MYM into a fight there instead of trying to push the base. Well,
they've got their work cut out for them this game, already lasting about 5 minutes longer than either of these teams faced down yesterday. We knew it was going to be an outlast battle. Whether the Wolves win, when the Wolves win, they tend to have very, very long games. MYM just has the long games in general.
Yeah, for sure. Nisbeth going for the full mobility any build. Righteous Glory, Talisman, so no Banner of Command, which actually would have been a good one in this comp for him if he had gotten it a lot earlier. And if they managed to use the Siege, then suddenly Banner of Command actually becomes very useful also for the MR.
Take a look at how the gold has swung back and forth over this game. It's definitely in the Copenhagen Wolves' favor, but you can see where MYM has been able to take advantage.
There's a few times for MYM. We had that start of the game where they got the early 4 kills. And then they didn't manage to use it because they didn't group as a team. And Copenhagen Wolves forced the team first. Now they're going to Kori again.
Yep, he's going to flash away from that collateral damage. It'll clip him on the side, but YoungBuck is the one going down already. They're locked up. That is, Nisbeth doing some serious work. And they are going to lose Kori, however. Soren coming up with a pick onto MrRalleZ as they push Freeze away from this fight. Unlimited still trying to help out Horo. He's by himself. He goes down. That's a double kill going to Soren. YoungBuck the only casualty for the Wolves. Nisbeth is finally going to go down. And Jwaow just hightailed it out of there.
Over a minute here for MYM. Copenhagen Wolves, they're pushing for the finish. Only Jwaow alive. We did see the burst from Kori with the Infinity Edge. He actually destroyed YoungBuck. But then the 2 carries went down. Copenhagen Wolves, they're pushing for the win.
Yep, they're ahead of the minions right now. Have a mind to tank it all up. And speaking of tank, Jwaow back on Fountain. Can he stop this one? It's going to be a long time before his teammates come. He's not even moving fast enough. They've already lost the Nexus turret. Make that 2. The Nexus is going down. 48-15 on the clock. And the Copenhagen Wolves are victorious over MeetYourMakers.